do indeed record all of my classes. They get sent to you in a recap that will cover a bit of what we went over today, as well as have a direct link to that recording that'll send you to a YouTube channel where all of the classes that I teach are cataloged for you to review. That's about it from the housekeeping side. So let's go ahead and get started. I am going to share my screen and let's dive in so I can get you guys out of here in a half hour. I think it's important to stress that your website, just like any major facet of your marketing arm, isn't something that gets developed overnight or even in just a few days. It's something that's going to require a bit of lifting on your end to build into, and more importantly, in regards for content, to be structured in a way that meets the needs of your sphere. And that's going to vary agent to agent, especially as your sphere begins to grow and you have more individual buyers looking for who have different individual needs. You're going to want to make sure that the website is two things. I always say, if you're trying to boil it down to two simple factors, it needs to be one, easy for your consumer to navigate. And that's paramount. It's got to be the most important thing, because there's no bigger turnoff to a consumer than a poorly updated or difficult to maneuver website. And second, it should show off what you and your brand have to offer, as well as why you operate in the region you do. Because again, there's a twofold aspect here. We're advertising business that you do in regards to selling in the region that you operate, but we're also trying to attract consumers and keep consumers that you have in your sphere on your website regularly by sharing what you love about the communities that you operate in. InTouch is the tool we'll be talking about today. It is the company provided CRM, as well as the tool includes a marketing center and a website as well. InTouch 100 or 101 usually covers the contacts management side, and then the 103 class will cover the marketing center. So today, like I've said, we're going to go into specifically our websites. When you open up your InTouch account, just for a quick overview, you've got your menu along the top. This big Find a Contact section is just what it sounds like. You can type a name in here and it'll start to look up who is located in your system. You have got a quick snapshot of the contacts in your system sorted by status that they are in. And as you can see, the 7 that are marked new show up in your new contact section, which will remain, everybody here will remain here until you move that contact to a new category. And when you refresh, you will see that number now be, instead of 7, it will be 6. The two sections we're going to talk about today in regard to your website are obviously website. But before we get into that, we need to go into my account, because the foundation of everything that operates out of this system is in my account. And it's always a great place to start, regardless of what you're working on. And I'm actually going to pull up my website to kind of show a visual comparison too for some of the stuff we are looking at, because there are some things you edit in there, a couple of things actually you edit in the About section that will feature on your website. Everything else will be edited in this section here. So we're going to put a pin in that. We'll get into it in just a moment. First thing you want to do when you get in here, make sure all of this information is correct. Now, the display website is going to be whatever the InTouch website is. If you want to have a custom domain, something like, if I wanted anujchaudhary.com or anujsellsmonterey.com or whatever the case may be, if I find something that fits my brand and I want to utilize that, talk to your field marketing specialist, set up an appointment, and kind of go over what your options are there, because there's several options in regards to having a custom domain, and it is something that is paramount to your marketing strategy as it sits in your business plan, because these are things that'll become expenses that need to be cataloged and accounted for through the model of your brand. And you want to be conscious of, again, what are we doing here, right? This is the hub of your business and your brand. Things like social media accounts, Instagrams, Facebooks, things like newsletters, any kind of physical advertising that you do, all of those are arms of that marketing plan and strategy that drive traffic ideally back to this hub of your business that is your website. So these are kind of the gears you want to get rolling very early on in the process, and what you want to be conscious of as you're building the content on the website. This is where I think a lot of the early conversations and struggles happen with agents. And I want to stress here, you don't need to have it 100% finished out of the gate before you start advertising. The big thing is know what the brand name is, have the basic information about you on there, and continue to build it while you're working your book of business. Much like any other tool or any other strategy, don't wait until you think you're ready, because you're losing momentum. And that's the last thing we want you to do. If you need to update anything in here, we're going to go ahead and click edit. Things like title, license number, phone numbers, and ways you can be contacted. Again, by default, these are actually all checked on. If you don't use Google Duo, if I don't have an Apple phone, so I don't have FaceTime, but I do use WhatsApp, I can use Skype, I can use Zoom, and of course I text. So I leave all of those checked on. Reply to, sorry, there is a dog howling at some birds. If you hear that, I apologize. The reply to email. This here is this external email or your CRM email. Obviously, you guys aren't going to be using that CB InTouch email to have consumers reply back to you. So you want to change that to whatever your primary email is. Now, an important thing to note, anything you send out from the system, listing alerts, newsletters, marketing pieces, it does have, if a consumer were to look at the email that's being sent to them, this is the email that does show up. That is purely for tracking purposes. So InTouch can keep a tally on open rates, on bounce backs, on dead emails and stuff like that for you. But if someone were to reply and on your footer, what they will see is whatever email you enter in here and choose in this reply to. Your call to action, again, whatever your tagline is, you would want to put that here. I've got one that you guys probably see in my email all the time, so I'm going to go ahead and add that, because again, this is stuff that will show up not only on marketing pieces, but any piece of marketing that is sent from your website. So if a consumer signs up and sets up a search or an alert for themselves, they will get all of this, all these kind of taglines and everything associated.
You're muted. We can't hear you.
Oh, thank you for letting me know. How long was I on mute? If anyone could let me know where that got lost.
A minute.
Okay, about a minute ago. Thank you so much. I will round up to the top of where I was starting right here. So in editing this space, after you've done the marketing information, the website is what this second section is. You have two bios that are located in this section, your bio summary and your full bio. And if I go to my website, I can give you a peek at what those two look like. Your bio summary is going to be a module that you can add to your homepage. And again, thinking about your consumer, when we start looking at the homepage layout, you want to have all of the information important to your business consolidated nicely for them to scroll through. The full bio will be available in the About section, has a longer character count, and is also where recommendations and testimonials can be left by your consumers. To show you in that editing space, what we're looking at is right here. This is a lot of what the editing looks like for anything you use in InTouch. It's a very simple word processor. You've got your bold, italic, underline, your justification for margins. You can choose a paragraph heading style, but more importantly, you've got a handful of fonts that you can choose the text size. If you needed to bullet anything, text color. Now be conscious when you're thinking about text color about what background colors you are using for your website. And again, when we talk about where you'll pick those, I'll show you in just a minute. You can add links and you can insert images like the one I dropped in to my full bio. Adding images is a system that requires you to upload the image to your marketing section in the marketing center. So we'll get into that in a little bit more detail in just a bit. But what I just want to reiterate here is that these are where those two sections will be edited. You will see a space in the website editor to update a bio, but none of those changes will actually stick. You need to make those updates in the About section, or the, My Account section of InTouch, and it's these profile details, marketing, and website that will make those changes. Same for adding social media accounts to your website. Anything that you want to add, as you can see, you can do, I've added 4 to mine. If I hit add social media, you can choose one of the systems that are integrated with this, blogs, LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. Whichever one you choose, you would just paste the URL in and hit save. If you need to edit anything, hit the pencil. As you can see, that's the channel ID. That's what it's for. If I need to delete anything, you hit the little X and it will delete. Once you are done with all of these changes, make sure you hit save. If you do not save, you will lose the work you just put in. Once it's saved, it updates right away and in real time. So any changes that you do make, you'd be able to see reflected on the website in about 5 minutes from this section here. Now, moving on from the My Account section, when you click on Website and we go into Edit Site, you land on a landing page of pages and menus. These right here reflect the menu bar that runs along the top of our website. And as you can see, they are all related to what you see in each of these sections. And the only one with subpages is resources, and that is reflected. As you can see, I can hover over any of these and I click on them, they'll take me where they go. But the only one that has any subcategories is resources. And under resources, you can see things like finance, partners, careers, and I even link out to my YouTube channel from my website. So what you want to think about, again, is in design, how can I collect the information to best suit my consumers? And when you're working in here, you will notice you can grab and hold and move things however you would like. It's just a click and hold system. As soon as you let go, it'll drag and drop. Then you can save, so these can be laid out in whatever best meets your needs. You can add your own page or menu items or a link like I did in my case. Pages are these items right here that will take you to another section. A menu item is like my resources tab that will drop into several other pages. In this case, there's 3 pages and a link. Editing any of these sections is done, with the exception of the home page, is done by clicking page. You've got edit, rename, SEO settings, and then you can view the page itself. Like I had mentioned, for the about section and for the home, the bio, that's actually edited in my account. Your home page, when we hit edit page, will bring up the modules that we were looking at on my website. So if we see here, we've got your home search section. This is always at the top. You can't move that. And then the rest of them can be kind of suited in to see fit, again, for what best meets your consumer's needs. So I've got my home search right here. And if I click on one of the sections below, you can see I've got agent account card, and you can see a little hand pop up when I hover over it. This will allow, just like the menu items, to grab and move things around for how we see fit. And as you can see, I've got an agent contact card. We've got communities served, testimonials. I've got a custom page I built of COVID-19 news, and then featured properties, of which I unfortunately don't have any because I'm not an agent, but I digress. You should be able to see properties featured on your website, and I'll show you where you can add properties in just a sec. There's 2 thoughts on this. A, obviously you don't want the website to be empty. You can add listings from your office, so that way consumers can land on your website and have things to search through. And B, making sure that this is linked to the MLS is how the saved search section works, so consumers can set up listing alerts for themselves and search for properties on your website. If you don't have your MLS linked in this section, reach out to your FMS or your SSA, and they can get that set for you. It usually takes about a day to get the IDX feed linked up and running. And I'll show you again where you can add properties. That's in a separate section from here. Let's look at the agent contact card, for example. So I'm going to put that where I like it to go. And clicking on the 3 dots in any card will allow you to edit that card or delete it. And what you can see is I can choose from various color schemes and layouts, as well as a design. If I don't want the bio featured there, I don't have to have it. Or I could have it with a white background. I can have it with my first accent color or my second accent color, which is what I have it set to right now. All I do is I hit save, and just like that, it's set. It's not super complicated, and it's not meant to be. Again, your website doesn't need to reinvent the wheel. The goal is to convey the information to your consumer in as concise and relevant a way as possible, because that conveys how concise and relevant your business is in a very subconscious way. A messy website speaks to a messy business. A clean website speaks to a streamlined one. The community served section is great because you can, as you can see, you can have it featured in a couple of different ways. I'm going to hit edit. I've got the headline that you see above it. Again, think about what is built into your brand, utilize creative language, make it sound like you. And you can choose either a cycling of your communities. You can have them listed in a very traditional sense, like this. Or you can do what I like and have the photo blocks, either by 6 or by 3. These look great because you can add your own images in, and even if you don't, you've got some default ones that'll be there while you're working on these communities and enticing your consumers to then hang out on your website, dig, look at more stuff, and find out what you have to say. Getting rid of an old section that you don't want is as simple as hitting delete. If you create a new section by adding a new widget, as you can see right here, you've got some of the basics, like if you deleted your agent contact card and wanted it back, or the community served, you can do that. Custom content is what I built here. And I'll just show you, since it's already here, what that back-end editing space looks like. Again, you can choose the background. That's really about it. And then it's about building the content that is in here with the same editor that you see in the main section, except here you can choose an image that you've preloaded in your system or grab one from the catalog of public domain photos that we have in our system, or upload your own. Now, this is where we want to stress anything you upload to the website, you need to be the copyright owner of or have the okay from the copyright owner. Do not just go to Google and grab images and put them on your website. If anybody that owns that copyright wants to make a fuss about it, they will. To avoid that headache, you either purchase the image from a copyright holder or use images that you've taken yourself or purchased from, packages or photographers when you did listing concierge or things like that. Whenever you're done with a section, you get the chance to review it, see what it looks like, and of course, save. Whenever you're done editing your home section, hitting preview and save will allow you to look at it, not just in its desktop view, but see how it looks like on a tablet and on your mobile device as well. All analytics tells us that almost 60% of consumers will be looking at your website on a mobile device. So it's important to make sure it looks best here and just as good here as it does here. I'm going to hit save. And you'll see that congratulations, your changes have been saved. And you can go ahead and close that section down. A lot of these sections will function in the same way. When you hit edit, outside of that, you've got your basic text field that you've seen all across the InTouch space. This, for example, is the contact card. So if you added text to it, it would appear between the email, and my name, and then all of this information here. If we're looking at, you can rename certain pages if you didn't want that to be called search, and we wanted to call it home search to be a little bit more specific, you can do that. Moving items between main menu and submenu is just as easy as grabbing and holding them. And as you can see, you can snap items back and forth. I can make this its own page. I can move it underneath, or like I want it, I can have it as a subcategory in resources. Again, any change you make like that needs to get saved. It's a click and hold system. One of those things that makes a whole ton of sense once you get in here and start playing with it. And again, editing these pages are all done in a very simple manner. There isn't any need to reinvent the wheel too much. It's all about what you can share with your consumer in some of these sections. Now, the community side, as you see right here, isn't edited by going into edit page. All you're going to be doing here is adding text to the list of communities that are built into the system that you've added. To add to those communities, what you want to do is click on this communities served tab. Clicking on that will bring you to the list of areas you cover. Now, this is the second big chunk outside of the home page that I really emphasize agents work on. As you can see, I've got 3 built in. If you want to add a community, it's just as simple as going in here. You add that community's name. I'm not going to have it in all caps because I don't want it to look like I'm shouting. Anything you check as a primary community you work in will make that community featured up here, not just on the list, which is alphabetical. If you don't check this little box, none of the communities will populate right here in between your text and your community served list. Areas are important for 2 reasons. And there's 2 ways you want to add them. By zip code. So you can go in here, choose the zip code that you need. Or if you want to, and you can have both, or you can draw a map. Now, what this does is this will determine the radius and the information being pulled from MLS that shows up here in regards to the properties. So as you can see for Big Sur, where I've got this section edited, the zip codes I put in there account for 8 active listings at that average sale price. And then if a consumer wants to go look at them, all they got to do is click on that button and it takes you right to them, and it keeps all of your handsome branding right there. So you want to be conscious and think about what we're representing in any given area. The more precise you can be about certain things, again, the better understanding your consumer might be able to get about what's in a prospective area and what's in a region. If you know 2 markets are greatly different from each other, or if you're creating a market that isn't exactly a zip code. Let's say you wanted to do the Highway 68 corridor and you draw that out on a map. What happens with the map search is you basically would be drawing an area by hitting draw community. And then whatever is within the boundaries of that map will be what are included in this section. So you have a bit of control here in what's going on. So again, I'm just going to add what I want here. And that's it. Let's say I've got those in. Now, what you've got here are 2 sections to describe that community. Your community summary, which is the text that will show up behind the main image you upload for that community. So you want it short, sweet, descriptive, and then the community description, which is your, summation of the community. More importantly, I tell agents this is where you can really leverage some big facets to make you stand out as and you may have heard this phrase from some of my colleagues, a mayor in your community. I know I am right at 1 o'clock right now, and I promise this will end in just a couple of minutes, so hang tight with me. We're going to dive into more of these website features next week, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But what you want to do here, build business to business relationships. Talk about featuring, and I always say start small, plan for quarterly. Let's say every quarter. So once every 3 months, you're highlighting a business, you're highlighting a location, you're highlighting something in that community that you love. It allows you a space where you can, drop in a video. You can embed images that link out to your YouTube channel. You can do all kinds of things to connect those marketing arms like an Instagram or a YouTube back to this community page and drive a space where your consumer can continually visit even when they're not just looking for homes. And that's the key to a great website, is it's going to be a hub for your business and not just a space, which there are thousands of, for a consumer to search for listings. You want to do something that brings them into why you work where you do and why you love what you do and why you are where you are. This is that space to really make that shine. So in that in this first session, what we covered is the home page and really building this out, and your community section, as well as making sure that your bio is strong and reinforces the branding and the premise of your business, whatever that tagline, that slogan, that idea that you are trying to represent gets fulfilled in these statements, because this is where you are selling yourself and what value you provide to your consumer. In another session next week, we will talk about SEO and where you can kind of dig into the minutia of that, a bit about the communities and home search, and diving that into the marketing section of this website as well. What I would love for you guys to do between now and next week, you'll see the class in Sales Pro next week where you can sign up, but go ahead in here and start editing those 2 spaces. Don't overwhelm yourself. Get started here and utilize what you've learned to start building up those pages. Send them to me if you'd like. If you have any questions, reach out to your FMS, your SSA, and start diving in there. And then you can start to work. Once those are built, move on to the next thing, and so on and so forth. So that way it's not something that you're trying to tackle and you burned 3 months on and lost a ton of opportunity while people head to your website and it's still stale. But instead, you've got something that's being built and growing. And as consumers continue to check in over and over again, it's something that's constantly changing and evolving with your business. I am going to go ahead and stop talking now and stop sharing my screen and open up the floor to any questions you guys may have. If you guys want to go ahead and put them in the chat, please feel free to do so. You can also unmute yourself if you would like. I see, Kathy, you have your hand up. Yes, I will, James, I will send out a video. You guys will get a recap from me shortly that links to my YouTube channel where everything is stored. Matthew, I see you're typing a question. It's good to see you in more classes. I'm sure that makes Kristen very happy. If there are no other questions, I am going to go ahead and stop the recording. If you guys have a few moments,